Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to go over my tier list of spectral cards, and this was kind of an interesting one to put together because with spectral cards, for instance, some of them are extremely strong, but maybe only so in niche or certain unique situations, whereas other spectral cards, maybe they're good every time you play them, but they're not nearly as good as some of the other cards that are very strong in those niche situations. So how do you weigh the pros and cons of that being consistently playable and strong or being extremely strong in niche situations? So I tried to put it together kind of weighing the pros and cons and cost benefits of these different ways that you can play these spectral cards. But I'm going to start off in C tier and then kind of work my way up. So in this first tier, I'm going to drop these three cards. So we're going to start off with Grim. It destroys one random card in your hand, but adds two random enhanced ace cards. Next to that, we have Familiar. Destroys one random card in your hand, but adds three random enhanced face cards. And then we have Incantation next to that. Destroys one random card in your hand, but adds four random enhanced numbered cards instead. Now, I'm not saying that these are bad cards by any means, especially in the right situation. If you're having a deck that you're building off of ace cards, Grim can be solid. If you're having a deck that you're building off of face cards, Familiar can be solid. And then again, with numbered cards, Incantation can be solid. But in general, with my deck, I'm trying to trim the number of cards that I have, reducing it down so that it's easier to find exactly the cards that I'm looking for. And these types of spectral cards that are adding cards to my deck make that a little bit trickier. But again, there are situations, of course, where you can use these cards and they can be beneficial. But there's just so many solid spectral cards in a lot of different ways. And I slotted these into C tier because I prefer the effect of a lot of these other spectral cards a little bit more. Going into the B tier, I have Medium, Talisman, Sigil, and Ouija. Starting off with Medium, this one adds a purple seal to one selected card. So you put it on a card. When you discard it, it creates a random tarot card. Of course, this can be good, but it's kind of the opportunity cost where you're not maybe getting other seals that are a bit better. I prefer blue seal and red seal, for instance. Having purple seals on cards, discarding them, and getting those tarot cards can, of course, be quite good. Next to that Talisman is another seal. It's going to add the gold seal to one select card, and that is when it is scored, it's going to add $3 to your economy, especially when you re-trigger that. It's very beneficial to adding that money to your economy. And it's not necessarily that I don't like purple seal or gold seal, but it's kind of, again, the opportunity cost that if you have those on cards, you're foregoing having a red seal or a blue seal if those are your other options. But certainly these seals can be solid in and of their own right and certainly useful throughout your run. Next to that, Sigil converts all cards in hand to a single random suit. This one can particularly be beneficial if you're going for a flush hand strategy and you haven't curated your deck up to that point in time with the suit that you're looking for. So this is an easy way to convert a large number of cards that you have there in hand to a single random suit and then build off of that for your flush strategy. And then Ouija converts all cards in hand to a single random rank. The downside to this one is you get -1 to the hand size. Now, there are other ways in Balatro, of course, that you can increase the hand size that you're having to kind of counteract that. And this one can certainly be useful if you're trying to go for a pair, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, 5 of a kind type strategy. Certainly using this one, converting all cards in hand to a single random rank, and then whatever that rank ends up being, you can curate your strategy around that. So certainly useful in those situations. Now in A tier, I want to talk about these spectral cards that are very strong, but maybe kind of in unique situations that you find yourself in. Starting off with Ankh, what this one does is it creates a copy of one of your jokers at random, then destroys all other jokers, leaving you with 2 identical jokers. Additions are also copied, except negative is not copied. So this is kind of a unique situation, particularly if you're in gold stakes or in a situation where you have eternal jokers that aren't going to be able to be destroyed. That can be a solid situation to use Ankh. Or if you have a small number of jokers or just one joker, of course, you would know exactly what copy that you were getting with Ankh, and it could be great in those situations. And you can get an idea of how strong this one can be. Let's say you make a copy of Blueprint or Brainstorm, or maybe a legendary joker you have, or some other joker, ancient joker, for instance. Copies of these can just be so strong and be additive to your score in the right situation. Using Ankh and getting a copy of one of those can just be so great. But it is going to be a little niche. Let's say you're loaded up with jokers and none of them are eternal jokers, where maybe you don't want to just risk it and get a copy of one and then destroy the rest of them. So it is a little situational. Hex, kind of in a similar vein, it adds polychrome to a random joker, which is a ×1.5 multiplier. Great if you can get that. The downside is it destroys all the rest of your jokers. So kind of like Ankh, you want to be in a situation where you either have eternal jokers that aren't going to be allowed to be destroyed, or maybe you're earlier on in your run and you have just one joker. If you play Hex, you know that that one is going to get that ×1.5 multiplier, and you don't have to worry about it destroying other jokers that you have. Next to that is Wraith. This one is going to create a rare joker. Of course, you must have room for it to go up into your joker slots, but it sets your money to 0. So again, kind of a unique situation. I love getting this one early on where my economy isn't already strong, or if I'm just in a poor cash position, rolling the dice on a rare joker. There's so many rare jokers that are really strong. It's a great dice roll if you're in a situation where you don't mind your economy being set back to 0. And Ectoplasm, it's going to add negative to a random joker. So you're in a situation where if you have 5 jokers, you add a negative to that one. Now you can have 6 jokers. Of course, that can be a very great thing to have. The downside is it's -1 to your hand size. Now, there are vouchers and other things that can potentially boost you up and increase your hand size, so maybe that isn't completely detrimental if you're able to build around it. Also, the downside with Ectoplasm is you don't really want to play a number of these because it's going to add an additional -1 to the hand size for each time that Ectoplasm is played. So the first time you play it, it's just -1 to the hand size. The next time you play it, it's -2 to the hand size. So in total, you're at -3. If you played it again, it would be -3. So then you would add that to the -3 you already had, and you'd get to -6. You can see how the more times you play Ectoplasm, the worse it gets. But of course, having a negative joker can be so great, increasing the number of jokers that you have, especially if you're able to counteract that negative hand size in some other way. And one other one that I want to put in A tier is Aura. This one isn't necessarily bringing the highest tier of effect to the table, but it's pretty much always consistently good in some way, easy to play. The effect of Aura is it's going to add foil, holographic, or polychrome addition, and that's determined at random to one selected card in hand. So let's say you're building your deck around a particular card. Maybe you're looking for lucky kings that have a red seal on them. Well, you can even throw an aura on top of that to give it a foil, holographic, or polychrome. And then if you're able to make copies of it through things like death or through another card that we're going to get to in a little bit, it just makes them that much more powerful. Perhaps aura doesn't necessarily have the absolute highest ceiling of some of these other Spectral cards, but it's pretty much never going to be in a bad situation to play this one. And then in the S tier, going to throw in a handful of these. And I'm going to wait on the last 2, so I'm going to discuss these 4 and then go into the last 2 after this. Cryptid, I absolutely love this one. It creates 2 exact copies, including enhancements, additions, and seals of a selected card in your hand. So like I was just saying with Aura, let's say you're building around Lucky Kings that have red seals, and it has an addition on top of it. If you can make 2 more copies of that with Cryptid, it's just going to put you in such a strong position. So there's so many types of cards that you can curate your deck around, and getting copies of them are just going to be so great. Immolate, I also love this one. It destroys 5 random cards in hand, but you gain $20. But I actually like both effects that this one brings to the table. I like thinning out my deck, getting less cards. The less cards you have, the easier it is to draw the ones that you're looking for. This one destroys 5 cards, and additionally, a benefit on top of that is it bolsters your economy with $20. Particularly in the early round when I'm looking to bolster up that economy, it's great to get that $20. And again, the destroying 5 cards can be really good as well as you're continuing to curate your deck. And then we get my 2 favorite seals, which are Blue Seal and Red Seal. Blue Seal is going to create a planet card for the last scored hand of the blind that you're in. So leveling up through planet cards, the types of hands that you're playing with those Blue Seals, so great as you're working your way through a run. So Trance is going to add that Blue Seal to one selected card, whereas Deja Vu is going to add a Red Seal to one selected card. And Deja Vu, so vital when trying to get really high scoring hands. It's going to re-trigger cards. Let's say, for instance, it's on a steel card that you're holding in your hand. Well, now that's going to get triggered twice. Let's say you have a Mime Joker on top of that. That re-triggers that steel card again. And then let's say you use Cryptid on top of that. So now you have multiple steel cards that all have red seals, and you have Mime, and you can re-trigger them. You can see how scoring would get totally out of hand in situations like that. Now, the last 2 I want to talk about are also some of my favorites, and that is Black Hole as well as Soul. So Black Hole, it's pretty straightforward. What this one does, it's going to upgrade the level of every single poker hand. So it's kind of like getting a free planet card for every single hand type that you would want to play. Can't complain with that, and it's pretty much always going to be a positive when you're playing Black Hole. And then Soul creates a legendary Joker. Of course, you must have room for it to do so. I'm never going to be upset to see Soul as I randomly get one of those legendary Jokers that can just be so great in helping the round that you're working your way through. So this is my tier for the Spectral cards. They all are pretty good in their own way, especially in the right conditions with some of them. Let me know what your favorite Spectral cards are down in the comment section. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and subscribe for more Balatro content in the future.